Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the College of New Rochelle. We're very glad to see such a nice, fine crowd, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed so early in the morning. I'm the Dean of the Graduate School. My name is Marie Rabarich. This is a little early for me. Graduate school starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So when they said I had to say welcome at 9 o'clock in the morning, it was a little unnerving, but I'll do the best I can. We want to welcome you to the first annual Autism Conference sponsored by the Graduate School and the Association for Science and Autism Research. We know that this is going to be a very informative day for you, hopefully a very fun day for you, and we know that you're going to walk away feeling that you have learned a lot, you've networked, and we hope that, you walked away with a very good feeling about the College of New Rochelle. Before we begin, I have a little business of the day. You all have received a folder, yes? If you haven't, we can certainly get you one. They're out in the front desk. In that, you're going to find information on our keynote speaker. You're going to find the conference schedule. That's this blue sheet. You're going to find information on each workshop and the presenters. And most importantly, you'll find a sheet that lists where all your workshops are. There's about 15 minutes in between each workshop, so it should give you plenty of time to get back and forth between different buildings, and I have plenty of staff available to point you in the right direction. Okay, and other important information in here, or it's information on ASAT, our partner in this endeavor today. Also information on the College of New Rochelle's graduate programs. And finally, information, an evaluation sheet. Now this is very important. Your feedback will help us plan future conferences. So if you can finish this at the end of the day, after your last workshop, and hand it to one of my staff, we will be very appreciative of that. For those of you looking for CEU credits, those of you that are BCBAs, there is also a form that you will fill out and mail back to receive that. If you don't have it in your packet, we have those forms out at the desk. Okay? All right, so let's start this wonderful day. We're going to start with a welcoming remarks from our president. I'd like to introduce you to the 13th president of the College of New Rochelle, Judith Huntington.
Thank you, Marie. Wow, what a beautiful day. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the College of New Rochelle's first annual conference on autistic spectrum disorders. For some of you who maybe this is the first time you've been to the College of New Rochelle, you're looking around saying, wow, what a gorgeous campus, and it really is. You're here at a really beautiful time as things start to get green and flower. For those that maybe don't know much about CNR, the college was founded 109 years ago as the first women's Catholic college in the state of New York by the Ursulines. Now today we have more than 4,000 students, 5 campuses in New York City, and we operate very much like a university model. We have 4 schools. The School of Arts and Sciences still remains committed to the single-sex education, but our other 3 schools are all co-ed. We have the School of Nursing, as you know, a graduate school, and the School of New Resources. So now with nearly 5,000 students and 50,000 alums, we've come a very long way in nearly 110 years. For our inaugural conference on this theme, we're really very fortunate to have partnered with the Association for Science and Autism Treatment, which was established in 1998 to provide education to parents, professionals, consumers about autism and its empirically based treatment. We're very pleased to be collaborating with ASAT on today's event. In fact, we're most grateful to have the president with us today, Dr. Mary McDonald, who's going to offer you the keynote address. Today's conference is the culminating event of a series of panels and presentations that took place this week at the college to raise awareness on autism spectrum disorders. On Wednesday night, we hosted a well-attended panel discussion entitled Perspectives on Autism Advocacy. Presenters at that panel included a young woman with autism who currently works as a disability rights advocate, a mother of an autistic child, a school psychologist specializing in ASD, and the chair of preschool special education from the New Rochelle School District. And on Thursday evening, Dr. Ram Karam, a pediatric neurologist at Columbia University and the founder of the Autism Treatment and Advocacy Center at Bronx, Lebanon, presented on autism myths and truths, classification, treatment, and education. With the growing number of children in our schools receiving a diagnosis with autistic spectrum, the faculty at the college recognized the need to bring greater awareness of autism and increase knowledge to both professionals in the field and parents and caregivers of these children. Today's conference, entitled Autism, Building Bridges Between Practice and Education, will cover a wide range of topics that we hope you will find beneficial to your work. This conference also marks the official launch of the graduate school's newly approved 15-credit advanced certificate in interventions for autism spectrum disorders. Finally, I wish to thank you for attending and to give a special thanks to all of today's presenters and all highly regarded educators and clinicians within the field for sharing with us their time and expertise. Please enjoy your day and welcome to the College of New Rochelle. Thanks again, everyone.
But I had to enlist the help of a friend, so thank you, Stacey. So she's going to be moving our videos along as we go through. They have wonderful technology nowadays, and that's the topic that we're going to talk about. But sometimes the technology doesn't always do everything you want it to do. So I can click from here, but I can't play my videos from here. So that's the limitation. We have lots of videos to watch. Okay, so our topic for today is technology. And I think that most people, to some extent at this point, are using technology. So how many people already use some form of technology this morning? Phone, iPad, computer, something, right? It's almost everyone. It's amazing. So the fact that we're all using this technology leads us to think that maybe this is something that would be important to think about when we're thinking about our students. And so that's really the purpose of today, is to think about how we can possibly incorporate technology when we're teaching students with autism. And so there's a couple of really positive things about it. One is that there's definitely research emerging in this area, which is exciting, and I'll share some little research highlights with you this morning as we go through. The other is that I do believe that it's very motivating to many of our students, and we do see that they seem to perform better often when we use technology than when we don't use technology. So that's a nice benefit. And the other thing is I really do believe, but it could be a personal thing, that it's motivating to us too. I mean, you almost all raised your hands. So everyone's sort of using technology at this point. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes we get a little frustrated with the technology, and we'll talk about that too, because there are certainly, of course, pros and cons to everything. But I do think that in a lot of cases, you know, we are motivated as well, which is good because we like to continue to be motivated for our students at all times. Okay, so why technology, specifically for students with autism? Well, we know that many students with autism are visual learners, so the technology very often helps to lend itself to that. You know, there's usually a visual component to a lot of the technology that we use. Not necessarily all, but a lot of it. We do see rapid acquisition very often for our students when we're using technology to teach. And I like it in particular because I think it's very easy to modify. And I know you've all heard the old story of, you know, I walked 5 miles to school, right, in my, you know, broken down shoes. People always say stories like that, right? Well, that's how I feel working in this field for 20 years now. And so I say things like, I remember the days when I used to have to take pictures with a real camera, and then the film would sit there for weeks because no one wanted to take it to get it developed. And then when we did, we would laminate it and try and make an activity schedule for our students, and the laminating would melt the picture. And then we'd have to start the whole process over again, you know. And so, you know, I think that these days, I almost, you know, have less tolerance, in a sense, sometimes for the teachers when they're not modifying the materials quickly. Because I feel like, really? You could do that in 3 seconds through Google Images. Oh my God, it's so easy, really. It's all at our fingertips now. We're so spoiled, really, in a sense, if we think about how easy some of the technology has made things for us. It's definitely an alternate way for us to provide prompts. Many of our students do require a lot of prompting throughout the day in order to be able to socialize, to communicate, to engage in ADL skills, to navigate their way through the building, whatever it might be that they're doing, they often need us to provide them with a lot of support. And although we're happy to do that, we find that sometimes we do too much. We provide too much support. Sometimes people might even say that we're mothering towards the students sometimes because we're so on top of them and providing them with so much support. And sometimes that's unfortunately not really a good thing. It makes the students very dependent on us. And so they may be looking over their shoulder often to see, where is my aide? Where is, this person who's providing me with this support? And we really don't want that to be, obviously, in the long term for them to require that. So the nice thing about technology, and I'll give you some examples as we go through the morning, is that we can use it as, a way to provide a prompt that nobody else necessarily even knows is being provided. So they're little secret prompts that we can provide to our students that our students will know that they're receiving, but everybody else in the environment doesn't necessarily know that they're receiving. And in addition, they're usually easier for us to fade out than sometimes ourselves as prompts, which is nice. So that's a good option. It does very often allow the student to either be more independent or at the very least appear to be more independent, which is really important. We talk sometimes about our students, kind of looking the part, fitting in. And so anything that we can do to help them to do that is always a nice thing. I do think that there's a novelty component. I just enjoy, I'm a little obsessed with technology, that's why I'm talking about it today, but I really enjoy the technology. I think it's fun to create a PowerPoint for my students. I enjoy these kinds of things. But I do think that for most people, not everyone, some people are nervous about technology. Some people get scared when you start to talk about technology. But for the most part, the novelty does make it kind of interesting. Definitely promoting independence, as I mentioned. I think that it can make the actual specific goals more interesting and more fun. We have students sometimes that are having some challenging behavior. And when we start to look to see what the function of that behavior might be, we see that the behavior may be maintained by escape from those demands that are being placed on them, maybe those academic demands. And then we find that we teach the same skill through an iPad, and suddenly they're not having challenging behavior any longer. So, sometimes just using the technology in ways to make the goals more interesting to them, sort of more inviting to them, can actually have a major impact on behavior as well. And as I mentioned, research is emerging, which we believe is always a good thing. Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit is video, using video technology. And you'll see, as we talk about this topic, I'm going to show you a few different video clips to show you some samples. So you'll actually see, I believe, maybe even some stamps on those videos, and you'll see how old they are, which I leave them in because they're classics, But I think that it's good to know that we've been doing this for a while. Unfortunately, when I do survey a room, typically, I find that a lot of people aren't really using this technology yet. And it's really been around for quite a while. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. And I am curious to know how many people have used video, maybe video modeling or video in some way, shape, or form to teach their students a skill. Okay, good. Getting a good amount of hands here. I'd say about a third or so. Great. So it's still, to me, it's still an area that's sort of underutilized in terms of what the research is telling us and really how our students are responding to it. I've been using video with students now, gosh, I don't know, for probably 15 years at least, I'd say. And I really haven't come across a student yet that I would say that it didn't work for, in some sense. So I've had to modify, I've had to get creative, I've had to slow the videos down, I've had to, turn the music off, turn the music on, all kinds of, things like problem solving, like we always do. But in the end, it has actually always been really successful for them. Okay. So there's a few different areas of video technology that I wanted to focus on today. So one is video modeling, and that's the one that people are usually most familiar with. So that is very similar to what we would normally do in a classroom where we might model something for a student. So we engage in a particular behavior, the student sees that behavior, they then imitate that behavior, they engage in that same behavior, okay? And imitation is such an important skill for students with autism, and it's something that we work on very early on because we know they're not really paying attention to things that are happening in their environment. So we want to make sure that they start to pay attention, and that they start to pay attention to people, and that they start to pay attention to people so that eventually they'll start to be able to engage in more social behaviors and things like that. So we sort of have our short-term goals, and we have our long-term goals. So video modeling is a nice way to really work on some imitation skills and to really make them more and more advanced, but also hopefully motivate our students, okay? It's also nice because video modeling can really sort of grow. I usually encourage people to start video modeling with students kind of young if they can, because as they get older, it's a nice tool for us to have to be able to work on some of the advanced kinds of social skills. So I might start with a 2-year-old, doing something like just having them imitate a little play scene, or just a very simple movement with a toy, even, through a video. I would still do that live as well, in vivo, but I would do it through video just to have them kind of get used to that idea of imitating something from a video. And if it seems not really sort of what you're used to thinking of, if it seems sort of different or maybe a little strange to think, oh, I'm going to have the student, imitate something from a video, think about how many typical children out there are imitating Barney and Elmo and all kinds of things that they see on the TV all the time. So it's really not so far off from what, we expect our children to typically do. And then later, when they're much more advanced and they've gained a lot of skills, I might have them do something very complex. Like I might have them watch a video of 2 people having a conversation. And I might give them 3 different index cards. And on those index cards, there may be joining in phrases, okay? And now the student has to watch this conversation unfolding in front of them and choose from those 3 joining in statements, which one would be sort of the right thing to say if I was about to join into this conversation, right? So a very different kind of way of using video, much more advanced socially, a great way to teach a skill like that might be so challenging for our kids and so abstract. This is a way to make it very concrete and very much in front of them. We can control the video, we can replay the video, we can have an extra chance, right? We can slow it down, we can stop it, we can pause it, we can give them help. There's all these great things that we can do during this kind of instruction. But it's good to sort of think of, where it might start, and then sort of like some of the really advanced, kind of places that we might end. Okay. Okay, so video modeling. I think you all pretty much know it's basically an extension of traditional modeling. And as I said, we're imitating, something that we've seen. This is a list of a sample of different kinds of skills that we might possibly work on using video modeling. So it's definitely not exhaustive. I usually like to take the challenge when I talk about video modeling, and I usually say, I think we can teach just about anything. If we really thought about it and got creative enough, I can't really think of many skills. There may be a few out there. But just about everything, I think in some way we could probably use video to help us to teach if a child needed to learn that particular skill. But these are some areas that have been focused on. So one is recreation and leisure. So as our students are getting older, very often one of the things that becomes most difficult for them is downtime. They become very good at doing things. We teach them to do things. They do puzzles, they do activities, they follow activity schedules, they do worksheets, they're doing all of these things and they're keeping themselves busy. And as they get older, they're maybe going to job sites and they're practicing vocational skills and they're usually very good at the actual job skill. That's usually not the issue for them. It's when they take their break that it becomes a problem. And we've had students, I work with students from early intervention through adulthood, so I've kind of done the whole gamut. And when I'm working with students of this age, what I find a lot of times is that it's that break time that's the real challenge for them. And so we've been using video modeling even to help them to know what they can do during their breaks at work so that they're not getting themselves into trouble. We had a couple of students that wanted to work during their breaks. And you could understand that some of our kids, knowing some children with autism, they would want to do that, right? You could see where that would be actually probably something that they would enjoy. But the problem is the other people on the job didn't like that idea very much. Can you understand why that would be, right? Because they think that everybody's supposed to take a break, and if all of a sudden our students aren't taking breaks, well then how do they get to take their breaks, and does it make them look bad? So we actually had like a little issue with that, and we had to make our students take breaks. So recreation and leisure could definitely be an area. ADL is a very common area, daily living skills, self-help skills. So things like toothbrushing and washing and anything, any kind of daily living skill. And daily living skills can really be anything. I mean, we often think of more of the hygiene-related daily living skills, but daily living skills could be things like going on, checking your email could be a daily living skill these days, I suppose, right? But even things like, what was the other one I was just going to mention to you? Checking your email or really, like writing a check out, anything like that. It really can be anything. It could be using your debit card at the bank is like a daily living skill now, right? Nonverbal social behaviors. This is an interesting area because when we think of social skills, we typically think of, I always say Family Feud number one answer, conversation usually is what people think about when you think about being social. But the truth is for our students, although they do have difficulty very often with the verbal component to social skills, they can also have a lot of difficulty with the nonverbal component. And there's really a very qualitative difference between somebody with autism trying to engage in a social behavior and somebody who doesn't have autism trying to engage in that same behavior. And we do see some differences in terms of the quality of their speech. The actual production sometimes may come out in a way that sounds more rote, that sort of thing. But really, it's the nonverbal social behaviors that usually kind of stand out the most if you were to watch a video clip. You would see that they wouldn't be standing appropriately, they might be in somebody's personal space, those kinds of things. So they're not engaging in eye contact, they're not using gestures or responding to them. So a lot of those nonverbal social behaviors. So we've done some creative things with that with video. I'll give you one example is gestures, which is such an important area that we often don't really pay attention to. So I've had families, God bless you, I've had families actually make videos of, each family member engaging in, sort of different gestures and modeling it so we can use it for video modeling, and then having the child, imitate the different gestures and of course putting it into context and then using those videos to teach. But we did something a little bit more creative recently. I had the teacher make a video clip telling a story and using gestures within the story. And what she did was when she got to the gesture part of the story, she didn't speak. She only used the gesture. And so the child had to fill in the word that matched the gesture and had to follow along in the story. So that was just like a creative kind of way of thinking, how can we get the kids to really pay attention to the things that they need to pay attention to make sure that they're really doing it and they're not just sort of memorizing, some information here. Of course, responding and initiating verbally is always going to be an important piece for our students. Some social language and vocational skills. We have a lot of students that are going out there and we're having them do internships and job sampling and hopefully maybe actually having some gainful employment in the future. And I am proud to say that I now have about 3 students that I have served that are now actually working and being paid and have jobs. So that's a really huge accomplishment because I couldn't say that about a year ago. So it's, it's difficult for our students to do that. And so teaching them the specific skills can also be helpful. I think the next one is video, yeah, okay. So these are going to be a few clips now of a student who is actually part-time in a program for children with autism and part-time back in his home school district. And I think the videos will sort of make sense as we play them, so we'll just kind of start and then I'll talk about it. Hopefully, yeah. Okay. So this is like a combination of some video and text.
Sure.
Thank you, Chase.
Okay.
Okay, can't talk to myself and stop. Yeah, it stopped, okay. With the black screen. So this is a student who participates in a public school during the day. He's there about half of his day. And he has, you're going to see him a few times this morning because he's kind of popular in my videos today. But, he has some difficulties sometimes. So where, he has a hard time following directions that the teacher provides to him. So rather than get into a debate with him and the teacher in the classroom with the other students there, we tried to find a proactive way to help him to understand that this would be important. So how many people have used social stories before? Anybody? Okay. So this, what you just saw now, is almost like a combination of like a social story and a video modeling sort of together. So it's showing him, being appropriate and responding to a teacher direction in a very nice, appropriate way, not saying anything that might be considered rude or non-compliant. And then there's the written piece, because he's such a visual learner and he understands so much when he reads, and he's usually pretty successful with social stories. So they combine both of those. Now, how did we get him to be so wonderful and compliant in the video clip is probably what you're wondering, right? The teacher that asked him to do that is a teacher from the program for students with autism, not a teacher from the other program. So he is actually incredibly compliant in our program. He's been with us for a very, very long time, and so when teachers ask him to do something, he just does it. But in the other setting, sometimes he doesn't. And so we were able to do this and then transition it over into that environment, and that was much better for him. Okay. It's like I don't even have to explain it. The story tells you everything.
Who would like to write the date on the board?
Sorry, it's hard for me twisting my neck to see what's happening up there. Okay, so obviously you guys kind of got the idea of what was happening there, that obviously he was raising his hand very quickly and was very excited to participate. I mean, he's very bright, he wants to talk to people, you know, these are all wonderful, wonderful traits to have. And for many of our students, we wish that they would do more of this. We wish they would raise their hand and want to participate all the time, right? But of course, it was obviously starting to become a problem, and we didn't want it to become, you know, a real problem for him. Now, what was nice is because we provide consultation for him in his public school setting, we were able to go in there and make the videos. So that's where you're seeing the desks and all that. That's in his classroom. Okay, this one I'm going to explain a little bit before you start it, Stacy. So this one is, this was just another difficulty that he was having. So he was having some volume issues. I'm sure some of you know some students with autism that may sometimes have volume issues, meaning that they either talk too low or they talk inappropriately loud sometimes in certain situations. And so he was having difficulty with that in the public school. And so we wanted to help him to understand that there could be sort of different levels of volume, and we wanted to make that more concrete for him. And we wanted him to really understand what that really meant, as opposed to just trying to explain it to him, which would have been very abstract and vague for him. So we made this video, and he actually participated. He's an active participant in the creation of these videos, and it really did help him.
Level 2. Okay, read each row of words carefully. Cross out the one that doesn't fit in a category with others. Underline, tell why it doesn't.
Volume 3 is the one he likes.
Here's the volume 3. I'll use volume 3. I'm using a volume 3 outside. And I can use a volume 3.
So it's obvious that, you know, he wanted to speak very loudly, and so it was very reinforcing for him to make this video with us because he got to speak in a volume 3. And so that was very, very exciting. But he also was really able to practice speaking at the different levels, and then we were able to show him the videos so that he could see himself doing that. And it's great because if you have these videos nowadays, it's really pretty easy to make them mobile. So you could put it on your phone or on an iTouch or an iPad or something, and we could use that as a little video priming for him, where we could show it to him right before we were about to go into whatever, you know, period that was matching that volume, to sort of remind him, this is the volume we're using here. You know, if we were going into the library, maybe we would have played a volume 1, versus going into the classroom, the volume 2, and then going into the cafeteria, we would have said, okay, now you can use your volume 3 if you need to. And that was very exciting for him to know. Now this video, this is not of that student any longer, we're done with him for the moment, but this is actually a video that one of my students at Hofstra made, and so I wanted to share it because I just wanted to show, you know, this is something that she made for a student with autism, but I just wanted to show how sort of easy, I guess, it can be if you start playing around with technology to make a video, because she hadn't done anything like this before.
This is the proper way to hold the door open for somebody. Oh, thank you so much. This is what can happen if you do not hold the door open for somebody.
You can only imagine, right?
Ow!
Okay, so this is a big area of difficulty for some of our students, you know, especially when they go to a job site. One of the things that we find is that they don't really follow like sort of the basic social etiquette, you know, the social rules. So they might, you know, try to take someone else's lunch out of the refrigerator. They might not hold the door open for people. They don't greet their boss in the morning, you know, those kinds of things. And so we try to work on these different kinds of skills. I know that you're probably thinking, wow, you know, the last time I went to Macy's, somebody did that to me, and I wasn't very happy, right? And we don't like it when people, you know, don't follow sort of the basic social rules. And if you were to hold the door open for someone else, and they walked through, what would you expect them to say? thank you. And when they don't, what do you do? Right. Sometimes you say you're welcome, and we say you're welcome because we're actually trying to prompt. Probably never thought about it before, but this is really true. So we really are in tune to these kinds of social behaviors, and we really would like to see our students engaging in them because people do notice them. I mean, clearly we all laugh about it because we notice when people do these things, so it is important for us. So this was a quick little video. They had a lot of fun making it, and it's something that we can use for our students to help them in those kinds of situations. Now, some videos you might need to make very, very specific for your student because you may be working on a skill that is so specific to that student that the video really needs to be tailored to only them. And then there may be some videos that really could be pretty usable across many students. Like this particular video you probably could use with a lot of students because it's a very general kind of skill that many students could benefit from. And so that is nice because if we can make one video and use it with many students, it's just efficiency-wise, it's great for us. So we like to be able to do that too. Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is, go over the video self-modeling. Okay, the video self-modeling. Let's see that. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, video self-modeling. So video self-modeling is a little bit different. In video self-modeling, what you're doing is you're having the student on the video, and they're seeing themselves in the video modeling the behavior. So this could be a little trickier, a little bit more energy exerted here to try and do this, because what you need to do is you need to get the student on the video doing whatever it is you eventually want them to do. So you're saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, that doesn't sound very logical, because if I can't get them to do it, and I need the video to teach them how to do it, how can I possibly get them on the video doing it, right? Well, there's a couple of creative ways that we do that. Sometimes what we do is we have the student do whatever it is that we're looking for that end, sort of result, and we might be prompting them off screen. So if we wanted them to do something, we might be standing, on the other side of the camera, modeling something or holding up a card for them to say something. So we might be providing a prompt, you just can't see it on the video. So that's a way to get the student to look, sort of independent on the video clip. That's one possibility. Sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes we try that and we struggle. So we have to come up with something else. So sometimes we do some actual editing. So we might actually take a video of the student and it's not sort of perfect, and we might have a prompt in there or something, and then we might have to edit the film so that it looks like as if the student was doing something more independently. And this is an interesting area of research. People are using this video self-modeling technique with children who are considered to be selective mute. And so what they're doing is they're making video clips of the child talking, but they're able to do that in the setting where the child is comfortable and is speaking. And then they're editing those video clips so it looks like the student is then speaking maybe to someone else or in a different setting. So the student can then see themselves doing that. So the idea is to then, sort of empower them and make them feel more confident so that they could then be in that situation and possibly, start to speak in that situation. So we would use it for our students more so for things like maybe some challenging behaviors, some social behaviors, things like that. Okay, so this is a little bit of a complicated story. I'm going to give you the simple version, but this is a student who was having some challenging behavior, and his behavior was very, very specific, and this is when I said you might make some very specific videos. If anyone coughed, he would engage in aggressive behavior towards them. Did you just cough? It's a good thing he's not here. So anytime someone coughed, he would engage in aggressive behavior, and that was anywhere. So if it was home and it was mom, it would happen. If she was out in the community, very often if he was within earshot of somebody, he might run, and find them or try to find them and engage in that behavior. So you could imagine how challenging this would be, especially during, the winter months when everybody in the world is pretty much coughing. It's kind of always happening. I know you're all going to be trying to hold your coughs in now. It's okay, feel free to cough. It's all right, but it was a real challenge for mom. And so what we did was we actually made a video, and we used self-modeling. So we made a video, and you're going to see, because we're amateurs, so you're going to see almost a mistake in the video a little bit, but just to give you an idea. So you'll see that his mom actually is the participant here, so she'll actually cough, and then he's going to come in, and it's like a big screen of him, and he's just going to say, are you okay? As opposed to engaging in that behavior. But in one of the clips, you're going to see he starts to raise his hand, and then we cut the clip. At that point, so he doesn't do that. But this really actually helped him. Okay.
Let's see, the money is it? Let's
So you could see, right? So we left that little piece in there for you to see what it looks like, but that's what would have happened. So then we videotape him in the actual situation to try and obviously capture, him really in that situation and really sort of handling that. Now, we would have to do a lot more than this for generalization purposes. What you might have seen, it's a little bit hard to see with the dark background, but what you might have seen was it was mom coughing, but she was coughing in sort of different visual settings. So just for generalization purposes for that. But we now, of course, would also have needed to add, dad and staff members and things like that. This is just one little sample of, what we did for him. But if you were thinking about doing something like that, you'd have to think about the generalization piece. Because for a lot of our kids, they might stop doing that with mom, but they might still engage in that behavior with everybody else, right? So. Okay. The next one is video scenes. This is just kind of like a little title that I created just to sort of explain this. And basically what video scenes are sort of social scenarios within a video. And for many of our students, because social skills are such a challenge, the idea of using these video scenes could be really helpful in terms of teaching them. So in a video scene, we might have really any kind of social situation that the child would observe, and then we could do lots of different things. We could either ask them questions about it, we could pause it and ask them what might happen next, or what would you do next, or what would you say. So there's really many, many, many different kinds of opportunities for learning within these kinds of scenes. What I will tell you about the scenes is that you have to get people to be in the scenes. So that's really kind of the tricky part. Although I have to say, in all the years that I've been doing this, there are always hands out there. Like there are people who are like, I'll do it. There's like always somebody volunteering to be on these videos. So it hasn't been too difficult, thankfully. I'm not that person. I don't really like to be on the videos, but I'm very happy that I have people that will. So again, these are some of the different things that you could do. And it's really pretty endless in terms of what you can do. You could, as I mentioned earlier, you could teach the students to pay attention to things like conversations, and I had mentioned the joining in type of skill, but we do it at a lower level as well, where we might just have two people have a conversation, have somebody else observe it, and then ask them questions about that conversation to see how much they paid attention and how much information they were able to garner while they observed that conversation. Because for many of our students, they're just not observing. They could be sitting right next to people and they're not really paying attention to what's happening around them. At a young age, we do things like observational learning skills, right? So we say to one student, what did you have for dinner last night? And they say pancakes. And then we turn to the other student and we say, what did Jimmy have for dinner last night? And they're supposed to be able to say pancakes, but sometimes they say eggs because they had eggs. And they don't really realize what you're asking them and they didn't pay attention to their friend. So we start building those skills at a younger age, and then when they get older, we're able to use them in a more advanced way. For some of our kids, we can help them to make choices. Now, when I showed a video earlier, and you might have thought to yourself, I don't know, if I showed that video to my student, he might start to engage in some of those behaviors, and that's true, and I do want to give my disclaimer on that. You have to know your student when you're using these kinds of videos, because, we have some students that we show them sort of the right way to do something and the wrong way to do something, and that works really well for them, because we do know that when it comes to having our children discriminate what they should do, giving them examples and giving them sort of non-examples can actually help them to make those kinds of choices. But for some of our kids, it could be a menu for, oh, I'm going to do that today. And they could start to engage in those behaviors now to maybe gain attention in the environment and those kinds of things. So you have to just be a little bit sensitive to that. Okay. We could play that one. This is our video scenes. These are our hands on here.
Dan, can you help me open the door?
Sure.
You're welcome. I don't have any snacks.
Do you want something more?
Thank you.
Okay, so in the first clip, the person was carrying something and turned to the other person and asked for help. So we've actually used this with one of our students, a student who participates part-time in our program, part-time back in the public school. Most people would consider the student to be relatively high-functioning. I mean, she can have a conversation with you. She's certainly relatively aware of her environment. She can do some academics, not at her grade level, maybe a few years below, but she definitely has a lot of good skills. And so we practiced this skill with her just as a baseline to see what she would do. And I gave her a crate to carry back to her classroom. And there were a group of us in the room with her, and the door was closed. And she knows me for probably 15 years, and we have a very nice relationship. So there's no reason why she should feel uncomfortable asking for any sort of help or anything like that. And she certainly has the language to do it. And she walked over with the crate to the door. She stopped. She kind of thought about it. And she balanced the crate on one knee and opened the door herself. Right? That is not so surprising for many of our students. A lot of times they would choose to do something more independently than to engage in verbal behavior, you know. And so having videos like this can help students to know that there are other choices. You know, there are other things that they can do, and they can ask people for help, and they can do those kinds of things. Now, we might play the whole clip and then have them practice that, or we might stop it and say, what should she do? Or what should she do? Because there's two different people in that clip, and have them take different perspectives, right? Okay. Let's see. This is, has anybody ever used fitting in and having fun videos at all? Anybody? Okay, great. Then you guys should pay attention to this, because this is great. This is a product that actually exists out there. Somebody did the work for us for a change, because I feel like we do so much on our own. We make so many materials for our kids. But this is, there's I think 3 in this, there may be 4 actually now in the series. This particular one that I'm going to show you is, I believe this is the Dare one. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. Yeah, it is. So there's all different kinds of videos. It could be things about, you know, being bullied, navigating the hallways, you know, there could be some kind of social skills. There's videos with teachers in them, with peers. And the idea is this is really, it's not video modeling in the exact sense that we've been talking about. It's a little bit different. It's like a video scene. It gives the appropriate way, the inappropriate way, and it has like sort of a little set of social rules that go along with it. So it's sort of a little bit of everything all combined into one. But it's generic. So sometimes it might work for your students, sometimes it might not. But the fact that somebody created it for us and we can actually possibly use it is wonderful, because we make so many of our own materials. It's very time consuming.
Has anyone ever dared you to do something? Let's see what happens when Jonathan gets a dare.
Hey, Jonathan, I dare you to throw that plane. Okay. Jonathan,
Pick it up, throw it away, and I'll see you at recess. Let's see what everyone's thinking.
I can't believe he's really gonna throw it. If I take this dare and throw that plane, everyone's gonna laugh.
You should never accept a dare. Accepting a dare can embarrass you, get you in trouble, or even put you in a dangerous situation. Let's see what Jonathan does differently to change the outcome.
Hey, Jonathan, I dare you to throw that plane. No way. You can do it. I know never to take a dare. It may make me look foolish and get me into trouble.
Okay. Good stop this season. It's just going to go over the rules. We don't need to hear them again. So a couple of things about that. One is that it's nice because it shows sort of what not to do, what to do. It gives some social rules. There's a couple of issues for our kids. One is the word never. I don't really like to use the word never with students with autism. If we tell them that they can never do something, then they really believe that they can never do something, and they will hold us to that, really probably until death. So we have to be a little bit careful about the way that we use certain language. So that's one of the only things that I would be a little bit cautious of with some of these already made products. But the idea behind it is nice. The other part that it's nice is when they bring up the little bubble with the kids, and they give you their perspective and what they're thinking, which is really important for children with autism, because very often they're not understanding people's perspectives or what they might be thinking when they're doing something. So I like that idea. I don't like when they make children talk as though they don't sound like children, though. So when he says, you know, I may sound foolish, or I may seem foolish, like, I don't want our kids to say that, because then people will make fun of them just for saying that, right? So we do have to be careful, but the idea is good. And what we do a lot of times is we take products that are already made, and we either use parts of them, or we, you know, get ideas from them, and then we sort of create our own, like we do with social stories a lot of times. Okay, behavioral rehearsal using self-video. So now we're sort of combining 2 different ideas here. We're saying that we can use the self-video, we can have the child on the video, but we can also do some behavioral rehearsal in between. So we have a video of the student engaging in whatever skill they might be engaging in. This happens to be something that people use sometimes actually at colleges. where they videotape somebody doing a job interview, and then they talk in between, and they rehearse, and they discuss, and they review, and then they give some pointers, and then the person goes back in, practices again, and we videotape again. But what we have to be careful of when we do that is that we don't point out too many things that are wrong, especially on the first round. Because if we do that, then sometimes our students don't want to sit with us any longer to review videos, right? So what we tend to do is point out everything that's right, and maybe one little thing that could change. And then we try to get that one thing to change, and then we do it again. And then we can have another opportunity next time and say, oh, why don't we try this differently? Or model something for them, or that sort of thing. So we actually have started using this for students in different ways. We had some students using it just in, sort of general social situations. We actually had some students that participated in a social vocational program. And so they actually were going to a job site. And so we did want them to practice some skills before they went there. So we have some videos to share of that. The idea is that the child can see their own behavior and hopefully start to see the progress, which is very positive, and also maybe analyze their behavior a little bit and start to make some changes. What I think is that we record data very often on our students and their skills and their skill acquisition, and we write progress reports, and sometimes we're graphing data, and we very often get to see our students' progress, and I think that that's very reinforcing to us, but our students don't often get to really see their progress. And so I think it's nice, in some of these situations when they can. Okay, so Stacey, if you could just click that top one. There's going to be some students practicing some breathing for the job site.
I'm ready for you.
Hello, I'm Jen, or Veronica, I'm Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Sparky Brothers.
Thank you. What are we going to do? Is there anything we can do to help?
Ah, very nice. Yes, today you can do inventory in the store.
That'd be great.
Okay, thanks. Get sorted. See you later. Okay, Chase, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Stay right there. Are you still recording? Okay, great.
Hey, Jim or
You have to come closer. Stand over there and start over. Okay, you're going to come quietly. You're not going to scream across the store. And you're going to say hello when you come here. So go ahead.
Hey, Jim or Veronica, my name is Chase.
Hi. I'm Veronica. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Starkey Brothers.
Well, what are we going to do today?
Oh, good. I think today you might be moving some plants around.
Oh, that's so cool.
Okay, get to work. Okay, Alex, please introduce yourself.
You can stop it, Stacey. Thank you. Okay, so in this first video clip, the students are just practicing, right? And what's really funny, I don't know if you picked up on it, but I know, so I know. But if you notice when the first student walked up, she said, hello, Jim or Veronica. Did anybody notice that? Or did it kind of just blended together and you thought that was an interesting name, right? So the reason why she did that is because, she has a diagnosis of autism and things are very literal very often. And this happens to be a very, she has really a lot of skills. She is somebody who most people would consider to be very, very high functioning. She's actually one of the students that's now working and being paid to work. So, but yet when the person who was working with her said, when we go to the job, we might be meeting either Jim or Veronica, because she wasn't sure which one of the staff would meet us at the nursery. So the student said, hi, Jim or Veronica, which I thought was very cute. The next clip is going to be them at the job site meeting Jim. You'll see how they swarm him, which is good. It means we did our job, but it's kind of funny. Oh.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hi, how are you? I'm Jim.
Hi.
Grace. Grace? How you doing, Grace? What was your name? I didn't get your name. Rachel. Okay, nice to meet you, Rachel.
Hi, Jim. Nice to meet you.
What's your name? Alex. Alex, nice to meet you.
I'm Chelsea. How are you, Jen? Nice to meet you, Jen.
Today, we're going to probably come up with a job. I got some flowers to be trained. Let's see.
Yeah, was there anything we can do to help you?
Ooh, you can help me a lot today. Veronica is in. Okay, everybody wants to meet Veronica.
I got them ready. I got them ready because I wasn't sure who they would be.
Okay, so you can see a little bit of practice goes a long way. I mean, Jim was a little overwhelmed with everybody greeting him all at the same time and knowing his name and all. but I'm trying to capture everybody else's names. But it really makes a difference because a lot of our students would have walked into that situation very much intimidated, and they wouldn't have really known what to do. So just having that, that session and having them be able to watch themselves on the video, practice again, go back onto the video, really made a big difference for them. Okay, now I'm doing for you what no one ever did for me. This is a list of some existing video modeling products that people have actually created out there that might possibly be helpful to people. So you have a whole list, and you have some web links here as well. Isn't that nice? I know. Because it's like you're always searching for things, so it's nice to have somebody just give them to you for a change. Okay. We could play this one. This is just a quick little video of some actions. Very simple. Just one of our staff drinking something. And the reason why this is important is because when you're working with children with autism and you're working on some basic, skills, and you're trying to teach something like verbs and actions, and they need to learn some, just basic running, eating, jumping, sleeping, things like that. And we very often teach them through picture cards. If you really think about it for our kids, really video would be the way to go. Because they can actually see the action. It's so much more clear to them what it is. And if you take a snapshot of an action, sometimes it's not really accurate to say that the person is blanking, because it doesn't look like they're blanking. It looks like maybe they did it already, or something like that, but it's not very clear to them sometimes. So I think actually using video for this particular skill would be really helpful. Okay, so we're going to change gears a little bit and talk about computer. And, we have a lot of students who really do enjoy the computer. So we have students that work on laptops and work on desktops and all different kinds of things. And nowadays, of course, everybody's moving to the iPad, so computers are becoming obsolete in some situations, but we still like using our computers for things. And we do some of these things on the iPad as well, because a lot of the things that we can do on the computer, we can carry over to the iPads and make them pretty flexible and portable. So for some of our students, they might have difficulty learning a particular skill, and so we just try to get creative when we say, how could we incorporate technology that maybe would help them to learn this particular skill. And so we've done, different kinds of things, but we've created some of our own sort of lessons, by using maybe PowerPoint. And so we had one student that was having a lot of difficulty with labeling. And so she just was having difficulty expressively labeling items. And sometimes when you know a student and you know that their sort of learning history and you know how they learn, sometimes you feel that some things are sort of out of their profile. Like it doesn't make sense that she's having a really hard time with this skill. She should be able to do this. And so you keep trying every possible different way to teach something. And so that's what we were doing with her. And she was, like I said, having difficulty. So we actually ended up creating a PowerPoint for her, and I'll show you that. Then we have students that have had difficulty with things like sight words. And we put them into PowerPoint and made slideshows, and all of a sudden, they're doing much better with that. Social stories, I'm going to actually show you, not in this presentation, I think in the one later. Actually a social story built in through PowerPoint. And then just some basic social skills. We can do things like strangers versus friends. I mean, just about any skill you could think of, we can sort of build into something like PowerPoint if we wanted to. For this particular student that had difficulty with labeling, we were interested in increasing her vocabulary. We wanted to promote generalization for her, and we wanted to increase her fluency, because fluency was a big issue for her. She would start to label the items, but it would take her quite a while to name them. And so she was very, very slow with her actual naming. So we made PowerPoint very simple. We just put pictures of whatever the vocabulary was that we were trying to teach her. This is just like a little sample of what it might look like, okay? And I think it may be because I just switched from a PC to a Mac, just like very recently, and this is the first time I'm doing the presentation on the Mac, so it's been a whole learning curve for me. And so it used to have sound, I think, associated with it. It used to say, what? It's all right, yeah. So it would say like cake and cat or whatever along with it, because in the beginning we wanted to have her be really successful, and we wanted her to just sort of follow along and have that prompt there, but then we very quickly just faded that out and had her do it without the prompt. Of course, these are all the reasons why we think it's good to use. Okay. Now, I want to kind of make you think a little bit differently for a minute. So for people who are working with children with autism, what people sometimes don't really think about enough, I think, and everybody's kind of guilty of it to some extent, is the generalization piece. Because we teach and we teach and we teach, but we don't always really assess for generalization, and we don't always really try to teach our students to generalize these skills. What's supposed to happen is we're supposed to teach something to our students, and they're supposed to just generalize their skills. Generalization is something that we're not supposed to have to teach. Generalization is actually supposed to be what we get for free, we say. So it just occurs, okay? That's typically what actually happens in generalization. We could spend a whole day just talking about generalization, it's such a huge topic. But for many of our students, they have a lot of difficulty generalizing skills. So we have to be more proactive. We have to actually think about it. So what I'm going to talk about now, just for a few minutes, I'm going to kind of go through it a little bit quickly because I want to get to the rest of the topics and we're running out of time. But what I want you to think about is how you could maybe use technology to be more efficient in your teaching so that your students would be more likely to generalize, okay? So for example, I was working with a student recently and I had just gotten involved on the case. The mom was very concerned that she wasn't really learning, is what she said to me. And when mom started to describe all of these things about her learning, I got a little concerned in the way that she described it, and I thought, wow, it sounds like this child really isn't making progress. And when I went to see her, and I looked at her data, and I met the teachers, and I got to observe her and all that, I realized that she actually was learning. She just wasn't generalizing very well. And so that was really a problem for her. And when I started to look at how they were teaching her, they would have a program book, and in each section they would have a Ziploc bag. Sounds familiar to some people if you might be working with students with autism. And in that Ziploc bag were a few cards for whatever program they were working on. And the problem was, it was just a few cards, and it wasn't enough. So she didn't have enough exemplars, she didn't have enough materials for her to really truly learn and generalize the skills. So that's the difficulty. So I want us to think a little bit about how we can use some of this technology, like Google Images and some of these kinds of things, because it really is so available to us that maybe we can even be better at this than we are now. Because I think that sometimes the hardship is putting the materials together, and that's why people tend to not do it. I don't think people say, oh, I'm not going to use a lot of materials on purpose, the child doesn't generalize. I think it just happens because we're all so busy, so this might be a way to think about it. Okay, so when we think about generalization, there's one thing that everybody usually thinks about. It's called multiple exemplars, multiple examples. So if we're going to teach a concept like cat, we're going to use multiple pictures of a cat, right? And so most people subscribe to that. Most people understand that that's important to do, especially when we're teaching children with autism. So people will usually say you have to use a minimum of 3, okay? We don't really know why it's 3. We just know you want to use a minimum of 3. 5 is good too. There's no research that says that you have to use 3. But we're going to say a minimum of 3 probably would be good, okay? Sometimes people might use more. The idea is that you teach with those as a set, and then you probe for generalization with a novel picture of a cat. And if the child can now say that that's a cat and they've never seen it before, you're going to feel much more confident that they're starting to get this concept of a cat. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So there's another piece to generalization that a lot of people don't actually realize, and that's called general case strategy. So this is sort of like level 2 now, okay? So multiple exemplars, you're going to use a few pictures of a cat. General case strategy says be very careful about the pictures that you choose. So make sure that you think about all the features that a cat could possibly have. You can't imagine that you're thinking about features of a cat, can you? Right? It's not what you thought you would learn today, features of a cat. But you're going to think about that, and you're going to try and represent as many of those as possible in those pictures that you choose, okay? Because if you represent as many features as possible in your initial teaching set, you'll be much more likely to get generalization to the novel one. Does that make sense? Where if you didn't do that, if you just chose 3 black cats, and they were just slightly different, and then you presented the child with a picture of like an orange and white cat, they would be less likely to tell you that that's a cat, because they wouldn't have really learned it, okay? So we learn the same way when it comes to generalization. When things are more similar, you know, sometimes we can actually generalize when we shouldn't. Sometimes we should be discriminating. I don't know if you've ever gone into one of those very large stores, like a bottles and cases or something, and you're trying to choose like your favorite bottle of wine. And you know sort of what the label looks like. So you're just kind of looking for the label, and you go to grab one, and you go, oh, that's not it. You know, and you're having trouble discriminating, right? So you're actually generalizing from one label to the other. And so we do that as well. When things are similar, we generalize. And sometimes we want to generalize, you know, in certain cases. And sometimes generalization is not good. It depends on the situation, right? Okay. So something like teaching facial expressions, which is such a challenge in and of itself, right? We want to think about how our pictures are chosen. So very often when people teach facial expressions, they buy the set, you know, right? And it's like close-up of faces. And that's how we teach facial expressions. And we use that set with those close-up faces. And that's pretty much it. And then we mark it off in the book and we say it's mastered. I don't know, it's hard for me to tell how much you can see, but obviously there's different faces here. Okay, pictures that look a little bit different. But we want to think, would those be the 3 that we would want to use, and then we call it a day? You know, is that enough? So we think about the different possibilities in terms of the features. You know. So if a child was taught with these 3 pictures, and then they were shown this one as a novel picture, would they say that this was happy? That's really the question. That's the bottom line. And maybe some of our students would, but I would think that some of our students might not. Would they say, when they saw this picture, that this was happy? Right? Okay. So general case strategy would say, you know what, let's look at a lot of different pictures. And this is so easy, like I said, Google Images, in 5 minutes you could have a ton of pictures, right? It's really not that difficult. You can just, if you're on the iPad, just hold your finger on it, copy it, and throw it into a PowerPoint slide. Now you've got 5 exemplars immediately. Like, it's really pretty easy to do. Let's look at lots of pictures, and let's think about how we can represent as many features as possible. It will make everything so much more efficient. So we want to make sure that we think about things like gender, right? We want to have close up, we want to have far away. We want to have a big, giant happy face with lots of teeth. And then we want to have a happy face that doesn't necessarily look like that, but is still happy, right? Because for some of our kids, if they didn't see the teeth in the picture now, if that's how you taught them, then they would assume that the person's not happy because they're not seeing it that way, right? They can be very, very concrete. I had a student who had learned to say hi and use someone's name. And the person who he was greeting was very, very proud that he was saying hi to her. And one day she came in and her eyes, there was a problem with her contacts and she wore glasses. And she came into school, and he saw her, and instead of saying, hi, Randy, he said, hi, librarian. So our students are very much having difficulty with these kinds of skills, just to show like how, really difficult it can be for them. Okay, so if we used, some different kinds of pictures, would it be more likely now that they would get this right? That sort of thing. If we only used, if we only used one exemplar, or if we only tested with one exemplar and we got some data, that looked like this, would we feel that the child really had mastered the concept? Because, we really have to look at the data. It will tell us whether or not the student is really doing it or not. And we really do need to think about, how many exemplars are we using and what are we taking data on? Does it matter that they're learning this while they're in skill acquisition, or does it matter that they're generalizing it? What's really more important, right? I think the generalization piece is more important. So I'm just going to scroll through these quickly, just to give you some samples of what it might look like if we taught with 1 exemplar, 2 exemplars. Okay, and then the question is, what if you probed? What if you probed with novel pictures, and these were the novel pictures, and you started to get data like this? Would you then start to feel more confident that you've actually taught your students something, right? Because this is something novel, they've never seen it before, and they started to get like 80 to 90 to 100% data on something that they've never seen before. I'm starting to feel more confident now that the child's actually really learned something. If I only took data on their skill acquisition of those first few pictures that I taught them, how do I know that they didn't just memorize those pictures? I don't really know what they know yet until I show them something novel, right? Okay. And then of course, a lot of our students have a lot of difficulty with things like transitions, what's coming next, what's the next, 4 activities in my schedule, what are the things that are going to be happening throughout my day? And so for a lot of our students, we actually use schedules to help them. How many people use schedules in some way, shape, or form? Yeah. And how many people use schedules for themselves in some way? Yeah, me too. Can't live without one. I wouldn't be here today if not for my schedule telling me to. I think that it's important that we realize that we all use these schedules, and so it's appropriate for our students to do this as well. And so for our students, we might start out very, very basic in the beginning. So we might be doing what's called an activity schedule, where they might just have pictures, very simple picture of an activity. They see a picture in maybe a binder, they go and get that activity, they bring it back to their desk, they complete the activity, they put it away, they take another activity, they put it away, and then maybe they do a preferred, really something fun at the end so that it's reinforcing to them, something simple like that. But eventually, as our students get older, those kinds of skills start to morph into what we do. So now we have students that use planners, that use iPod touches, they set up their schedules, all these kinds of more advanced skills. But they start out in the very beginning doing things in a little bit more, basic kind of way. So I'm always trying to think, I guess because I've worked with children from a young age, all the way through adulthood, I'm always trying to think about, what do they need to work on now so that later they'll be able to do those other more advanced skills? Because if we wait until they're 14 or 18, it's going to be so much harder to teach them those kinds of skills. Okay, so when we do schedules, sometimes we use pictures in our schedules. Sometimes we use words. It really depends on the child's reading ability, and it depends on what we're trying to show in that picture. In some cases, I do believe, what do they say, a picture means 1,000 words or something like that, right? And when you go to like TGI Fridays and you see that delicious dessert on the menu, it's not just words, it's pictures. Like they want you to pay attention to that, So sometimes it does depend on what we're trying to accomplish. And then schedules where we might embed videos, or we might embed some written scripts or audio scripts into those schedules. So a lot of different ways that we might do this. So initially when you think about schedules, it might seem kind of, boring in a way. But when we start to add all these things into it, it can actually be pretty exciting and fun for the kids. So they might have choices in their schedules, they might be able to sequence activities in their schedules, they might be able to choose between 2 different social activities or 2 different friends to go play with or to ask to play. They can go up to a teacher. Sometimes what we'll do is, a lot of our students are practicing social questions, so answering questions about themselves. But we have to have opportunities to practice and maintain those skills. If we don't maintain them, they lose them very often. So we have to make sure that we maintain them. So what we do sometimes is we might put a picture of a particular teacher in their schedule book, but it's like a folded sort of version, like an index card folded over with their picture on it. They can actually take that picture out of the book and bring it to that teacher and then talk to them. And inside that picture is a list of some of the social questions that the teacher can then engage with them. So it's a way to prompt the teacher to engage with them about something, and this way they don't have to know everything at every moment. And it's a way for the child to maintain their skills, which is really nice. And it's a way for us to complete our maintenance, which we always have trouble doing because there's so much to be done. Okay. So a written schedule obviously could be something as simple as this. Just a list. It could be on an index card, a piece of paper, could be in a book. It just, depends on how you physically make it look, but it could be very simple. Okay, some scripts that we might embed could be things like this, where the child does something and then they have a little written script that gives them something to say. Now, do we want to script what our students say? Yes and no. Sometimes in the beginning we need to because they don't have the verbal ability and we just want to get them talking. And then sometimes we can use faded scripts. So I might leave words out like I did here, or I might just write Mary, comma, and leave the rest blank. And then see if the student can start to fill the rest in, okay? Or sometimes what we do also is we'll do a quadrant script. So we'll do 4, like a 2x2 table, and we'll put in a bunch of different things that they could say, so that it just gives them some ideas of things to say, and then they can choose whatever they want. Or we'll even do a faded script like that. So it'll just say look, or I, or that kind of thing, and it's just one word, and then they come up with the rest on their own. Sometimes for some of our kids, it's like we just have to give them that little jump start, and then they can do it. But they just need a little something to get going. Okay. So just, obviously you guys are using all the Apple products now, so you can certainly do these things in there as well. These are some of the different systems and game systems that kids use, and you can actually embed videos into these too if you want to be portable. We use the iPod Touch now. We have kids that are obviously going out to job sites and out in the community, and they can watch, videos and do different things through there. So it's portable, which is great. This is one of the students. You could play this one, Stacy. This is one of the students working with his iPod Touch, setting up his schedule.
I might go sit down and relax at the beach.
I've got beach trips in my car.
So this is just the same way you guys set up your schedule, right? Looks very familiar. So he's setting up his schedule. He's in a summer. This was a summer program that we did in collaboration between even 2 programs in Hofstra, and it was on campus. And the kids come for the summer and they do travel training around campus. They do jobs on campus. They go and do recreation things. They participate in some classes. So he set up his schedule. You could stop it, Stacey. We don't know how to do it. And then this one, if you could play this one, this is him. Sort of using it and talking about it a little bit with the group.
And then next, we're doing what meeting? We're doing a 9 o'clock meeting.
Can you come right down on the board for me?
Sure. I would love to. You're welcome.
Stacy, good stop it. Thanks. So he goes up and he's so compliant and wonderful, isn't he? Sure, I'd love to. It's so great. So, they go over their schedules. They each have an iTouch. They prepare their schedule in the morning. Some of them are doing the same thing. Some might be doing different things. They talk about it a little bit, and then they go out for the day and do all their different things. They do their budgets on there. So they all have like a little budget. So they come in with a certain amount of money. They set up their budget, and then as they spend money, they subtract it from there. Okay, and then I just have a couple of different apps in here for you. I'm just going to kind of scroll through them. You have them in your handouts, but I know that everybody's interested in apps these days, and there's so many. I mean, my goodness, it's like overwhelming, but there's a couple of ones that we've used with our students. I think I have some more later. Let's see. Oops. Oh, okay, this is using PowerPoint to teach a conversation. This is Chase again, the one that I said would be very popular today in my videos. So what we did for him is he was having conversations with people, but they were very directed in terms of what he wanted to talk about, and he was sort of perseverating a lot and asking you questions about today and tomorrow and today and tomorrow and today and what you're doing today. And so we tried to take that and we created some PowerPoints. I'm not going to play it all for you because I don't have enough time, but he would look at the PowerPoint and it would give him like things that he could say and questions that he could ask. But we did relate it around the today, tomorrow theme because it was very motivating to him. And then eventually we moved sort of away from that once we got him talking more. But I'm going to skip those just for time purposes. So these are some of the samples of the slides that he actually had in his PowerPoint. He actually did pretty amazing with this. Within a day, he practiced it. He went through it once. He did it with the teacher, and then they generalized it with a peer, and he was using it. And he was like navigating through the slides on his own. And he had never used it before, so that was really good. So that shows the motivation with the technology. Okay, audio scripts. For some of our kids who are not readers, we actually use what we call audio scripts, and we could do it lots of different ways. There's different kinds of machines sort of to use. But in the old days, and I think I have some clips in here, we used a lot of the language master machines. We run the card through, and you can tape something on the audio strip. Right? Okay, but those aren't as portable, so now we use little memo recorders. We use these little buttons that you can actually record on. You can attach them right onto the schedule pages. So there's a lot of different ways that we kind of do it now, but I just wanted to show you quickly, this is a bit of research that we did where we had students using some audio scripts to try to initiate during the play and to appear, and what we found was that we actually got some nice increases in some of their verbalizations, but we also saw some unscripted responses, which is nice. So even though we were using scripts to have them talking to their friends, we also saw that they were talking a little bit more in general, which is nice to see. Okay, these are just some ideas for portability. There are actually watches out there now that you can program that will say things in them, and you can make it say it at different times and all kinds of stuff. So if you really want to get creative with a kid, you could put some little written prompts in there. Okay, social stories. We talked about this a little bit before, but basically, social stories, you're trying to sort of help students to be prepared for social situations. And so the story can be about just about anything that you could possibly imagine. I'm sure some of you have written stories about things you never thought you'd write stories about. I have too. But they can really be helpful. I have some resources in here for you. If you haven't used social stories before and you want to learn more about it, you can certainly look these books up. It'll help you. A lot of people create their own. There are some free on the internet as well, just as samples if you want to take a look. This is, Stacey, if you just click on that hyperlink, this is a story that we actually made for a student. And I'm not sure if I can click through that. Yeah, I can. So I'm not going to go through this, but I just wanted to show you that what we did was the story was about rock climbing, and he was having difficulty with like losing during rock climbing, or so he thought, because he didn't master it. And so we made a PowerPoint, and we made it look like sort of a rock climbing theme for him. And our goal was to get into the story and put pictures in, showing him doing really well, so that it would be like a positive thing. But we literally read the story with him once, and it wasn't an issue for him anymore. So we never even got to go back and edit the pictures. So kind of funny. And we basically just said that, he's doing fine. Stacey, can you click me past this? I don't know, I think I'm stuck. Okay, this is something that we use to help to prompt our students. This can be really helpful in environments you want the students to appear very independent, even though they're still getting a prompt. So we have students that are in inclusion environments, and it's kind of like a beeper, and they might wear this, and it will vibrate. And so we will have them wear it. We might set it for certain intervals, or there are some that can actually be like remote, sort of, if you wanted to prompt at a certain time, that it was important. But it will help to remind them to maybe talk to a friend, something like that. So we've done things where we'll use, again, like a quadrant script. We'll give them a few different things to say. We'll practice an hour setting. The vibration will vibrate. It'll remind them, oh, right, I'm supposed to talk to my friends, because that's just not something that they're thinking about in the way that other kids would be. So it reminds them, when they turn to their friends, they talk, they say something that is maybe on the script. And then we fade the script away. We keep the vibration in. They go into the general education class. They're with their friends. They're doing their free play time. All of a sudden, they feel the vibration. Nobody knows it's there. It's hidden underneath their clothes. And now they turn to one of their friends, one of their typical friends, and they're talking. And so we've actually had the typical kids come running over to the aide, like all the way across the room, the shadow, and say, oh my God, he's talking to me and you're not even there. Like they realize it. Like they realize that the kids are really doing this. Nice social validity. Those are just some of the websites if you guys are interested. I think I might have done something to myself, Stacey. I'm stuck in there since I clicked on that thing. Okay, I'm going to skip. This is just a student using the device at work. Keep going. And one more. I don't know what I did to myself. One more. Okay, so you can just scroll through these, Stacey, because I have lost control now of my technology. But these are just some apps. So just at the end, I'm going to kind of just fly through these last few. This is just to give you guys ideas. I just put it in here for you. Just some different communication apps that people might be interested in. Protocol is the big one that everybody's talking about. A bunch of our students are using that. Just different screenshots to show what it might look like. Keep going. And the big finale is coming. Keep going. This is the social stories. And keep going. Okay. Moodle is that's like an online website where you can actually like share information and it's free. It's kind of like Blackboard if people are taking courses. I'm not sure what they use here at College of Rochelle, but it's like that and it's free. So it's kind of nice you can use it in classes. Okay. And this is a Bizzle. People aren't familiar. It used to be free. And I believe this is keep going. VoiceThread is really interesting if you have students with autism that are being included in a general education class and you really want them to participate, but they have a hard time participating in the same way that their peers do. You can actually create a VoiceThread and everybody can participate, but in different ways. Some people can, record a message, some people can write in about something. So there's different ways for people to comment on, say, a video or a picture or whatever it is that you put into this VoiceThread. It's pretty nice. And it's free. And the last thing, this is the grand finale, is virtual reality. So we're talking about technology today. I want to tell you that people are actually doing research in virtual reality with children with autism. It is fascinating. I would love to get more involved in this area. I think it's so interesting and so pertinent for our kids. And so there's been some research that's been done where they'll have a group of typically developing children and they have them engage in virtual reality with a social scene where there's a lot of people. And of course the children navigate very nicely through that. And the children with autism walk right through the people. It's not so surprising. But it really could be an amazing teaching tool to be able to use some of this for our students. So people are starting to do this. So if you're interested in just kind of thinking about the future in terms of technology, robots and virtual reality is a big thing. You can click one more. And this is a virtual peer. So this is a peer that's on the screen playing with a child with autism, and you're thinking, oh my God, that is so far from where we want to be. But actually, fascinatingly, it's probably exactly where we want to be, because when we teach our children social skills through things like video, they actually learn them very well because the social demand is taken away, and then we can bring in the actual person. So it seems not logical, but when you actually think about our students and how they learn, it actually makes a lot of sense. So it's very interesting. I think that's it. Yeah, there's your future. So good luck with all your technology. I hope you do great things. Thank you so much. And I think I'm just about on time, so that was pretty good. Oh.
Yeah, when you're pulling up and doing the video, like with the text and then the video, right?
Oh, that was where they had the text embedded. I think that was actually iMovie. Yes. B. But how long would it take to edit it? How long should the video be? Okay, so the editing part, it really just depends on how good your video taking skills are, right? Because sometimes we take the video and then it would take us so much more time to edit it that it's better to just retake the video. So sometimes we just do that because, we're not really technology people and we don't want to spend too much time editing. But editing is easier now than it used to be, that's for sure, because you can really use a lot of these programs and just kind of cut and paste and it's edited, so it's pretty easy. So I would say you could probably edit like a simple little video in like 20 minutes pretty easily, And then in terms of how long should the video itself be, it depends. It depends on what you're teaching and the attention span of the student. So for some kids we're doing just like, maybe 20 seconds or 30 seconds of a video, and for some kids we might have like a whole minute of a video. It really depends on what the purpose is. Sometimes we play the video and then the child will then perform the skill after, and sometimes we have them watch the video and perform the skill while they're watching the video. So if we're going to have them perform the skill after, like we want to show them something and then put them in the situation, then I would suggest a shorter video, because if not, it's just a memory test, right? If you think about it. It might be hard for them to remember all of that information and then go into that situation. We had one student that we were working with in preschool, and we used some video modeling, and we taught her some nice little play skills and play initiations and all kinds of great things, and she was doing it, wonderful. And then when we brought her into the general education setting, she wasn't. So it wasn't enough for her to watch it here and then do it there. She wasn't carrying it over. So we had to bring the actual video to that setting and play it right before she walked in the door, and then she did it beautifully. So sometimes it's that memory piece, like it needs to really be very connected for them. Anybody else? Thank you so much.